Hey, another quick update. So for people who are seeing this on YouTube, go back and look at the last two videos on YouTube. So initially, those weren't for public. It was only for Flux Trading Group, for the private group members, right? For them alone, where I talked about my new entries and my analysis and everything. So I do a lot of free content, but sometimes I do stuff just for them. But then in the title it says, for public release, because now I shared it publicly because those trades already broke out. My model already played out. I called the breakout perfectly. I made money on those trades, and now that's over with. And I still share them, not just to show off or something, although it feels good to be right and then to be able to say to guys hey, come join the group so you can learn this stuff. But I share it for educational purposes. So even though those trades already occurred, I included some analysis that went further out than just the last 24 hours. So it'll be helpful to see that analysis for that reason. And also you can learn. You can see, all right, Jesse saw XYZ and he told the group he was getting into all these trades and they all broke out. So next time that we see XYZ, maybe we can benefit and capitalize on that, So it's still helpful for educational purposes, and that's why I still share them, not just to brag or anything like that. Although I admittedly do that because everybody does. Let's be real. So now I just going to do a quick public update. I'm not entering any new trades. Shorting here, short term, probably wouldn't be a terrible idea. Although we did continue up a little bit after the Stochh got to these higher levels. If you look at the Stochh oscillator down here, it got high up to the top, started coming down a bit, and the price kept going up. When that happens, we're hyper bullish, right? Where we are bullish beyond the technical model. So when the technical model says, hey, you should correct right here, but you don't come right down, you keep going up, that means that you can't really rely on that model to predict the dump. And that's why I'm not shorting here, but I did exit my short-term trades. My Bitcoin trade went up for 7.5% or whatever. My Ethereum trade broke out for about 7%. I closed earlier on this candle. So I closed at 28.30 or so on Ethereum. So pretty much right where we are now, very close to the top. And then I had a great short-term scalp on Matic. I closed that near the top. And in that case, we might actually bounce on the 55 EMA right here. You can see the hourly Stochh isn't lined up with the majors. It's a little bit off. So I might actually consider opening a little short scalp on Matic. I'm not entirely sure yet. If you look at, really quick, my other trade from last night, as you'll see in those videos, was LTC, which did a nice over 12% breakout. So I sold right near the top on that as well, expecting a little correction here. Now, if we look at the 4-hour models, some of them we just turned bullish on the 4-hour, right? Like on LTC, still a lot of room to go up. But now let's take a look at some of the others, right? So we have BTC. The Stochh is getting, pretty halfway up already, but there's still room to go. We started poking up into the cloud here, right? Now, we just had a quick wick up. That's not closing within the cloud, so that doesn't count. Like I said, once we get through the bottom of the cloud and the other line right here, the 55 EMA, once we get past this key level, right at 39.8, once we get past that and close in the cloud, we're going to continue pretty much right up to 45K. Well, 44,750, right? Right at the top of the cloud is going to be the main target. We're going to go up and come down a little bit, up and down a little bit throughout on the way up to the top of the cloud, but we should move pretty aggressively to the top of the cloud. If we fail to break into the cloud at all, and we come back down here from the bottom of the cloud right here where we just rejected, if we come down, because this is a major resistance here, major resistance, 55 EMA, bottom of the cloud, and if you look at the left side of the chart over here, see that right there? All those candles got rejected right at this price. So there's a strong resistance here. We had a quick wick up and then came back down. If the hourly model had a much lower Stochh, like here, it was starting a newer run up, I'd say we're definitely going to pump into the cloud on the 4-hour and then run up to those higher levels. But the hourly probably needs to reset a bit. Since we're really bullish, while I did close those short-term trades, I'm definitely not shorting, and there's a good chance we can get a pretty quick bounce. We might not actually go down that far. So normally I'd say, the Stochh would have to have a big wave down, big wave up, big wave back down. We don't really have to fully reset all the way. Plus, we're already moving a little sideways here. We continued upward as the Stochh started to reset. Realistically, the Stochh can get down to 35 to 45, pretty close to where we are now. Maybe the 7 minutes on this hourly candle plus one more red hourly candle retracing slightly. Maybe right here you see the 55 and the 99 EMA, the yellow and the blue lines going sideways. Maybe just dip down to there and then break up again. On that next break up, there's a really good chance we could break into the cloud on that 4-hour model. And if we do, the whole market will be green. So I would expect a very, very green day if that happens. Right now, all those candles sort of reset late last night, the dailies. So some are green, some are still red, but pretty much everything should turn green if that happens. So it all kind of comes down to the next couple hourly candles. Once we see how that plays out, we'll have a much better idea. If we see the Stoke turn up on BTC and BTC starts turning aggressively green on the hourly, I'm going to want to hop in to a really big trade on Bitcoin, and I'll probably get into the other majors, ETH and LTC. So those are my majors that I usually play. I also will trade BCH. So we have the 4 majors, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, and Bitcoin Cash. And that's usually what I buy when I say I'm buying the majors, because those are the biggest, most popular tokens. Obviously, Doge and XRP are even more popular and have a higher market cap than some of them right now, but it goes back years. So it's going back a long time. Since 2017, those have been the majors. And when I talk about trading the majors, that's what I'm referring to. So for an old school guy, that's what I'm saying when I say they're the most popular. Even though technically they're not currently the 1, 2, 3, 4, they're still the 4 big boys. So a lot of the alts are going to move up at the same time. If you're looking for which alts are going to break out the most, I'm not going to tell you which they'll be. I'll save that when I share my trades with the private group. But if anybody in the public sphere on YouTube wants to be able to identify potential breakouts themselves, there's various things you can look for. Matic is something that looks really bullish. One of the things indicating that is that we're fully reset on the hourly here, and we're ahead of the curve on the others. So the other assets haven't fully reset on the hourly like that. So she's kind of ahead, and she looks like she's going to push up. She corrected before them, and she's probably going to break out before them. If she starts pumping up, not only is she going to outperform everything else, but that's going to be an indication that everything else is going to follow suit. This is one of those rare cases when a random altcoin might actually predict if Bitcoin's going to pump instead of Bitcoin pumping and taking the rest of the market with it. Although that'll happen with everything else, Matic just happens to be the outlier here where she's in a perfect position for that. So she's most likely going to make a solid move. I'll decide if I'm going to get in pretty soon. But if you look at these, you'll notice a lot of them have a Stoke that move very similar to the majors. If you can find ones that have fully reset a little bit ahead, number one, and still have a lot of room left on the 4-hour model. So if you look at the 4-hour model on Chainlink, it's really high. It started a dump and then a premature move back up. So the 4-hour model isn't truly that reliable on there. If you look at DOT, same thing. It never got a full reset. And she started kind of halfway up with a reversal. That could be bullish sometimes, but in this case, I want to look for things that have a full reset. Like, look at this. You see how we had a full reset all the way to the bottom on DOT right here? Look at the bottom of the screen at the Stoke. See how it got really low to that oversold territory and then turned up? You can see that was an aggressive, big pump back up, right? Versus this one. Look at this one. It came down. It started zigzagging a bit, like it was going to turn, and then it went a little lower, and it didn't go quite as low, and it wasn't as clean of a full wave down and a full wave up reversal. In that case, we got a much smaller move up. So we can predict those bigger bounces by how clean that Stoke model is and if it's fully reset. Because what that means, since the stochastic is a momentum oscillator, what that's telling you is that if you get that full swing, you can get an entire cycle, 6 to 10 candles on that particular time frame. In this case, on the 4-hour, you could potentially get 6 to 10 candles of aggressively bullish action once you get that momentum reversal, because you're going to see the momentum swing, and then there's just a lot of buildup. As that momentum builds, you can get bigger and bigger moves and get these really big candles if you have enough space to do it. But when you're already up in that overbought range, sometimes you just go hyper bullish and you peak up a little bit more. Sometimes you pump a little bit, but you kind of hit a wall. You're going to have a lot more room to move up on those. So those are the assets I would look for, and I'm going to. And I'll be looking at my each and my model too and identifying the best support and resistance scenarios. I'll let the group know about all that, and then maybe I'll share 1 or 2 trades publicly. We'll see. You can also see on DOT, much like a lot of the other assets I've been talking about, we have this consistent inverted head and shoulders on pretty much everything. And the reason that's really bullish and the reason you're seeing it on everything is because an inverted head and shoulders in the proper context is an indication of a bullish reversal with the Elliott wave count, where you're seeing a new motive wave begin, because that new impulse, right? You have an ABC correction on here, right? ABC creates that shoulder and the head, and then the other shoulder is the 1, 2, 3 initial breakout for that first motive wave, right? That first motive wave, the sub count of that wave, that initial impulse, creates that formation, and we're seeing that on everything. So it looks really bullish, but like I said, we have to break into the cloud on BTC. Once we do that, we are in a much, much, much better position. All right, stay tuned for more updates.